Snow fell softly over the city like a hush the world had agreed to keep. The kind of silence that only Christmas Eve could command, when even the busiest streets seemed to slow their breathing. Inside the towering glass building that bore his name, Alexander Gray sat alone in his office on the 42nd floor, staring at a skyline that glittered with celebration he was not part of. At 51, he was a CEO the world admired and envied, a man whose signature could move markets and whose presence could silence boardrooms. Yet tonight his hands trembled slightly as they rested on the polished mahogany desk. A half-empty cup of cold coffee sat, untouched beside a framed photo he had turned face down hours ago. Down below, carols drifted faintly from a plaza where families gathered, laughter rising like warmth through the winter air. And something inside him cracked quietly. He hadn't planned to be here tonight. He had planned to fly to Zurich, then cancelled. Planned to dine with executives, then dismissed them. In the end, he chose the office because it required nothing from him. No smiles, no explanations, no memories he wasn't ready to face. Christmas Eve had a way of reopening wounds he spent the rest of the year carefully stitching shut. Alexander rose and walked toward the window, his reflection faint in the glass. A man in an expensive suit who looked far older than his years. He remembered another Christmas Eve decades ago, when he had stood outside a hospital room with his hands pressed together, begging for a miracle that never came. That was the year he learned money could buy influence, access, comfort, but not grace. Since then, he had built walls of steel and glass around his heart, and the world had rewarded him for it. Success came easily when you felt nothing, or so he believed. Tonight, however, the silence pressed too hard, and without warning his chest tightened, breath hitching as tears he had refused for years finally spilled. He sank into the leather chair, shoulders shaking, the most powerful man in the building reduced to a quiet, breaking figure no one was meant to see. A soft knock interrupted the moment. Alexander wiped his face sharply, irritation flaring. He hadn't authorized anyone to be here. "I said I wanted to be alone," he called, his voice rough. The door opened slowly anyway, and a small figure stepped inside, followed by a woman who looked equally surprised to be there. The girl couldn't have been more than 6, bundled in a red coat with white buttons, her dark curls peeking out from beneath a woolen hat. She held a paper bag in one hand and a small stuffed reindeer in the other. The woman behind her, her mother, Alexander assumed, froze mid-step, eyes widening as she took in the scene. "I'm so sorry," the woman said quickly, her voice apologetic but firm. "The security guard said I could finish cleaning this floor early and bring my daughter. Since it's Christmas Eve, we didn't realize anyone was still—" She stopped when she noticed Alexander's tear-streaked face. The girl, however, did not stop. She looked at Alexander with wide, curious eyes, head tilting slightly, the way children do when they sense something important. Without waiting for permission, she walked closer, her boots making soft tapping sounds on the marble floor. Alexander straightened, embarrassment burning through him. "It's fine," he said stiffly, waving a dismissive hand. "You can go. I'll leave soon." The woman hesitated, clearly uncomfortable, but the girl tugged gently at her hand, then let go and stepped forward alone. She studied Alexander for a long moment, then spoke in a small, clear voice that cut through the room like light through fog. "Mister, why are you crying?" The question wasn't intrusive. It was sincere. Alexander opened his mouth to respond, then closed it. No answer seemed safe. Adults didn't cry in front of children. CEOs certainly didn't. "I'm not," he said finally, though the lie sounded weak even to his own ears. The girl frowned slightly, unconvinced. She climbed onto the chair across from him without being asked, setting her reindeer on the desk like it belonged there. "My mom cries when she thinks I'm asleep," the girl said matter-of-factly. "She says grown-ups cry when their hearts are tired." The woman inhaled sharply, clearly mortified. "Emma," she whispered. "That's not—" But Alexander raised a hand, stopping her. Something about the girl's words landed where nothing else had managed to reach. "I'm Emma," the girl added, offering a smile that felt like a gift. Alexander swallowed. "Alexander," he replied quietly. "You can call me Alex." Emma nodded as if this was important information to file away. She looked around the large office, the city lights, the decorations someone else had put up out of obligation, a modest tree in the corner, untouched gifts beneath it. "You're alone," she observed. "It's Christmas Eve." The simplicity of the statement hurt more than accusation ever could. Alexander exhaled slowly. "Yes," he admitted. "I am." Emma's brow furrowed in thought. Then, in a moment that would change the course of his life, she leaned forward slightly and said, "Don't cry, mister. You can borrow my mom." The room went very still. The woman's eyes widened in shock. "Emma!" she exclaimed, rushing forward. "I'm so sorry. She doesn't mean—" But Alexander began to laugh, a sound that surprised even him. It started low, shaky, then softened into something almost like relief. He pressed a hand to his face, half laughing, half crying. "It's all right," he said, voice thick. "I think she means exactly what she said." Emma smiled proudly, as if pleased her solution had been well received. "My mom makes hot chocolate," she added helpfully. "And she listens. She's very good at that." For the first time that night, Alexander felt warmth that had nothing to do with the heater humming quietly behind the walls. He looked at the woman, Emma's mother, really looked at her. She was in her early 30s, he guessed, with tired eyes softened by kindness, wearing a simple sweater beneath her cleaning uniform. There was strength there, quiet and unassuming. "What's your name?" Alexander asked her.